Hi everybody, this is Harshmeen. I hope you guys are doing good. Sorry for late videos because we've been really busy. And today I have Kelvyn Eglinton from Momentum Waikato, and he is the CEO of Momentum Waikato. And I would like to introduce Kelvin, and I like you to let us know about you first.
Sure. Kia ora koutou, everybody, and thanks Harshmeen for the chance to speak to your team and your crew. So my name's Kelvyn Eglinton, CEO of Momentum Waikato. Momentum Waikato is a community leadership foundation, and we have two very clear aims. The first aim is that we are growing a regional endowment fund for the Waikato region, and we do that through people leaving bequests or making donations and setting up funds to support projects. And we were established by a donation of $10 million by the Well Energy Trust, and after 6 years of operation we're now at $32 million, and we aim to be, and we are on track to be, at $300 million by 2045. The second thing we do is we use the proceeds of those funds to support donors' wishes and support projects in communities, but we also do our own transformational projects. And so the Waikato Regional Theatre is one of those, and we use those funds to support the project directorship and the skills needed to put that together. And we also use impact investment methodology to support projects of change in our communities. And our big focus in the next 3 years is affordable housing in the region, and working with our other funding partners like Trust Waikato and the Well Energy Trust and the Brightline Support and others to deliver actual houses in our community. And we also are looking at working with the DHB and communities to develop integrated wellness centres, and we have a pilot at the Houchin Road Retreat, which was a facility gifted to us by the Houchin family and the Houchin Charitable Trust. So that's what we do as an organisation, and we are always looking for civil or civic infrastructure type projects where we can invest in them, but obviously as an impact investor what we're trying to do is put some money into that project and then make a return which grows the endowment, so that we can then do that again. The difference is often the projects we support, like affordable housing, wellness centres, civil projects, are things that the market aren't going to touch because the return's not great or the risk is too high, or it's an integration with government often. So we step into that space, and we do that with our donors and our partners, and that's how we've been able to develop the regional theatre at $73 million.
Yeah, and what about, I just wanted to know who Kelvin is.
Well, I have a background in working in that. It's quite a unique background, I think. I've worked in international mining, so prior to coming back to New Zealand in 2016, I was the head of external affairs for Newmont Mining in Australia. So that covered Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, New Zealand, and our mines in Australia. And I was heavily involved in developing corporate social responsibility initiatives with communities. So that was everything from land access arrangements with Indigenous groups to social investment initiatives, localised banks and local lending schemes, setting up small business opportunities for communities in Indonesia, dealing with complaints and issues, and making sure that the corporate behaviour working with those communities was strong. So Waihi was where I started, and did that. We were overseas for about 8 years, and then coming back to New Zealand in 2016, I initially worked for council, but then this role to bring some of those international skills into that social investment space and utilise that for this region was where I started. So that's how I ended up here. But I grew up in Manawatu, so very similar to the Waikato. Went to school down at Manawatu, went to university at Lincoln University, and then worked in the sports industry for a long time as well. So it's an interesting mix of commercial requirements, fundraising, commercial business alongside the community needs, particularly in sport, because that's where it was heading, very professional, moved that professional era, and doing a lot of strategic planning work and engagement with communities. And through that I ended up in the mining sector, and then developed the whole corporate social responsibility space, which is still pretty new in New Zealand. I still do some of that work with mining companies around the world, helping them out on some of that work.
And what you were saying, you were in international mining affairs in Australia.
Yep, Australia, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands.
So you were in New Zealand or you were in Australia?
I was based in Perth, so my family and I were based in Perth. We lived in, and then I ended up chief of staff for our mine on Sumbawa Island, and I was based in Jakarta as the chief of staff for our business there. So basically, I was the foreign national in the office, making sure that we were doing things right, and then working with the team on the island to make sure that they were doing all their social responsibility, environmental things correctly.
How did you end up coming back again?
My young family and elderly parents. It was time, after 8 years, it was just a chance to come back to New Zealand, and it coincided with the opportunity to work at Hamilton City Council, which I was really grateful for. Local government is undervalued and misunderstood, but actually the work is incredibly interesting and quite important to a community, but I think community really misunderstand what local government does.
Yeah.
And then, so that's why we came back, for family reasons largely. And my wife is Māori, and she's involved with treaty settlement work with her iwi in Mokai Pātea. So there was a reason to come back and do work that has real purpose, and then to fall into this job and still be involved with things internationally up until COVID hit is pretty unique.
So it's been 3 or 4 years in
5 years. We're just
with Momentum Waikato.
Oh, sorry, 5 years back in New Zealand, and just over 3 years with Momentum Waikato.
So I think you did a right choice coming back 5 years ago. Otherwise, COVID would have been such a struggle.
Yeah. I mean, we often used to think about whether we'd done it right, but with COVID in the last 18 months, it was definitely and it was the right time to come back. And we looked hard about where we wanted to be, and Waikato it's an amazing region that, in terms of economic growth and potential and the environment and the landscapes and its proximity to things, and its relative affordability. I know it's not, with house price and that now, the affordability is probably is debatable, but at the time, 5 years ago, it was definitely and education opportunities for kids and things like that. So it's a great space, and what's really unique about it in this job is that we can't do what we set out to achieve without the generosity of benefactors and donors, and I think Waikato is uniquely placed to have people who are incredibly generous. Gallagher family, the Perry family, the Gardner family, the Stark family, and we have very good supportive councils. We've got people who are prepared to take a leadership role and do things on behalf of the community. Trust Waikato, Well Energy Trust, D.B. Bryant Trust. There's a lot of great philanthropy and donor support by people here, and the regional theatre is just one example of that.
So, what kind of projects are happening right now with Momentum Waikato, under the belt of Momentum Waikato, I would say? Yeah,
so in our endowment space, we've now got 15 different funds that have been established, and the one that one of our very first funds was the Waikato Women's Fund, which is run by a committee of women who are there to support the power of women and the dreams of girls, and that fund is now sitting at over $100,000 and gives out money each year, and run by a committee, and donors continue to add to that over time. And one of the other funds we've recently set up after the atrocities of March 15th in Christchurch was the Intercultural Fund. And that's been a really interesting, that again is close to $100,000, and the proceeds go out to groups, but that has been a co-design project where we've worked with ethnic and intercultural communities to design what that fund should do, who should look after it, who should generate it, and who can donate to it as well. So all these funds are things that people can leave bequest to or make a sponsorship to and grow over time. And we invest those funds and continue to grow them so that they keep getting bigger, and then the proceeds go out to community groups. But we've got funds for Waikato Rugby Support Fund, there's one for the CBD Development Fund, there's the Te Awamutu College Fund.
Oh wow!
We're looking at establishing a Waikato Investment Fund, and these are all where people have come to us and want to start something up. And we've also taken on trusts, so we've picked up and managed the Donny Trust, which was an $11 million private family trust, where the trustees wanted to retire, and they've gifted us that fund, and we administer that and manage that and grow that on their behalf.
Wow.
And the Houchin retreat was the Houchin facility on Houchin Road, where the trustees gifted that because they wanted to retire, they needed someone to modernise the facility. They have gifted that to Momentum Stewardship and Management, and we've done a partnership with the Wise Group to develop a wellbeing centre and piloting that to see if we can replicate that around. So those are just some of our current projects in the endowment space. And we're talking to a number of different trusts where trustees are saying, look, we want to retire. We've got a fund that sits here that we want to have someone look after and be stewards for, and we want the proceeds to go out, and we manage all of that so that it's ongoing in perpetuity and continues to grow and support. So we know there's thousands of trusts in the Waikato that probably need some of that support, and so that's what we're here for.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a new thing I heard about managing the trust. It's a big job to do then.
Yeah, and with the changes to the Trust Act recently, so we're getting more and more inquiries about people saying, look, we're finding it hard to find new trustees.
Yeah.
The administration costs, the compliance costs, the reporting costs, they're modest amounts, and we might only be giving out $6,000, and we've only got it sitting in a bank account, and we're not making. So can Momentum look after that for us and manage those funds, and then put those funds back into the community? And that's exactly what we're here for. So
wow.
That's one thing we do.
So that means you can also help with anybody struggling with managing the trust.
Yep.
So you can help them.
Yep.
Oh.
And then other people who are saying, well, when we pass away, we've got assets and we want to leave that to the community.
Yeah.
But we don't want it just to give it to a group and it all disappears. We want to set up a fund. So people are talking to us all the time about establishing bequests so that when they pass away, a portion of their estate will be established with Momentum. There's a deed which outlines what they want the funds to be used for, what they want it to be supported, and we look after that in perpetuity in their name and their stewardship. So that's the whole the concept of a community foundation. And this around the world, it's kind of new in New Zealand, but it's not new around the world. If you go to the UK, if you go to the US, often you'll see a lot of civic buildings like libraries and universities and medical centres are named after people because they've been bequested. They'll be bequest to fund that service for those towns.
Oh.
So it's very much a European and Northern American concept, and we're bringing that here to New Zealand.
No, that's a good thing. That's always a good help for those people who are struggling to manage their trust.
Yeah.
But they still want to, save their assets.
Yep.
So it's a good opportunity for them to get these kinds of services.
Yep.
And what's happening with Waikato Regional Theatre?
So the Waikato Regional Theatre is probably our biggest, most public theatre. So we're all go on that. Last year it was pretty tough with COVID, and then we had some challenges in the Environment Court around some heritage aspects which we've resolved just prior to Christmas. So we've resolved all of the regulatory issues, we've settled all the agreements and the appeals, we've raised $69 million. We're just waiting on our contractor to give us their final gross price so that we can know exactly what the final construction price is, and if it's where we think it'll be, we sign off and we start hopefully operations in there in May.
Oh, May 2020?
Yep, May this year.
This year?
Yep,
Oh.
and at least with site preparation, with construction probably starting proper in November, which means that we're about a year behind because of COVID and those appeals.
Yeah.
So that means we'll open in probably December 2023. But we're all go, so we're down to finding the last $5 million, and we've got some applications in, and we're talking to some donors and some naming the right sponsors, and we're about to launch our Share the Stage campaign, which is this thing here. So when you see this, and we've got a video that'll come out and a website that'll all about to be launched, and so people can make donations or come and talk to us about how they might want to be a sponsor or how they might want to just buy a seat. So anyone can make any donation of any size, but that just helps us get a community buy-in and raise the last million or so that we need from the community.
Yes, that would be really great. This is going to be really helpful for the community.
Yeah, look, it's really useful for it's a regional theatre, so it covers the whole of the region, and the Waikato Regional Council are committing funds to this as well. So we've had great support from all of our funders. So the Trust Waikato, they come on board really early. Hamilton City Council and the Waikato Regional Council, on behalf of all the regional councils, have come on board and are significant stakeholders. and without their support we couldn't have done this. Then we managed to secure $12 million out of the Provincial Growth Fund, and we're just working through some final details there. We got $4 million out of lotteries, and we're just waiting on some feedback from the Regional Cultural and Heritage Fund, and we've raised about $8 million from private donors and sponsors, and we've got the last $5 million to find. So, and that'll be through naming the right sponsorship, some applications to gaming funds, and a community fundraising opportunity. So, we're ready to go. So, which is really exciting for the city. It's great because it's located in the CBD. It fronts the river. It provides a life into the CBD that's been missing, and it's all about connecting the river in the CBD and the community. In performing arts, we know that a theatre that'll be running at sort of 120 event nights per year. So pretty much busy Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and with schooling events during the early part of the week. That'll really revive and lift the CBD. So it's exciting from a creative arts perspective, and it's everything from ballet to rock shows to stand-up comedy to to plays and Shakespeare and modern plays, and it's not just a traditional theatre. It's very high standard of sight lines, 1,300 seats, great acoustics, and it's a place that people can gather and create content and kapahaka and sing songs and waiata and display cultural heritage and performing arts. And I think it's less about the building. Actually, I've always been excited because it's more about what happens on the stage and how it makes you feel. So that's a really exciting bit.
And what about parking around the regional theatre?
So there's plenty of parking around. We did a study, and we know that right around the city, within a 6-minute walk, which is about 400 metres, we know there's 1,800 car parks. So we know there's plenty, but we also know that not everyone comes to the theatre in a car. Like we went to the theatre the other night, we took a taxi, and a lot of people take taxis or Uber, or they walk into the town, or they come in early and they get dropped off. So, even if 50% of people come into the town, 1,300 seats, that's still only 300 cars. So when you do the math and you do the numbers, and when we've talked to people about parking, what most people are concerned about is those people who are elderly or don't have, or have disabilities. But of course, we have to provide car parking space for that, and we have to provide drop-off areas, and many people come in by buses. And it's no different to when you go to the rugby. There's no parking at the rugby, but there's drop-off spaces and traffic management and all that. And yet we always have big events here in the town. We've had the Lantern Festival, which gets over 2,000 people. We've had the prize giving and the welcome ceremonies for the Rugby World Sevens, and we get well over 2,000 people, which is more than the theatre, into the city. We've had the balloons over Waikato hot burn event. We get more than 2,000 people. So even with the cricket in the city, just over just on the other side of the CBD, there's no parking there either, and we somehow managed to get 30,000 people in there. So we know that it works, and we know the spaces are there. But what we're really mindful of is those people who can't walk and who need drop-off spaces, that will be provided for.
Okay, and what in terms of Waikato Regional Theatre, what are businesses thinking about it? Because I have heard some positive as well as negative aspects. But what do you think it's going to benefit the businesses here?
Well, I mean, if you can increase the number of people coming in by 1,300 seats for 4 nights a week, and if there's 2 shows per day, if you're a business surrounding that, I think you're going to enjoy that. And every business that surrounds the organisation can see the benefits. The town will be increased, there'll be more people, particularly hospitality. What they are concerned about is during the building process. So when we're building, making sure that we don't upset their customer delivery and don't upset their delivery. So that's about a 2-year period. And we've got a requirement in our conditions to have a neighbours liaison group and a business liaison group. We're about to set all those up and establish those shortly. So all of that communication on a monthly basis about what the schedule is, what's happening, keeping people informed is what people really want to know.
Yeah, communication is the key.
Yeah, and in the construction phase, whilst it's 2 years, it's only about 9 months of which there is interference on the streets, because the rest of it's inside, or it's internal, or it's on the site. It's not blocking the street. So That's what people want to know, the businesses want to know. But I have yet to have someone say it's not, a business say it's not a good idea. No one's come to me and said, oh, we don't like the idea. What they've said is we want to make sure we're not interrupted during the construction phase.
Yeah, that's the only problem.
Yeah.
During the construction, it would be really hard for them.
But we're in a CBD, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want a city to grow, you've got to have some growing pains, and whether it's the development of the ACC building or the Union Square building, those two projects are happening at the moment, and no, it's not disrupting the city too much. And there's another project that we're in the short time we're going to have 5 high cranes in the city, and yet the city's still working. So we know we can manage those things, and we've had big developments happening in the city recently, and construction that are the same size as the theatre. So we know it can work, and we know that communication and keeping people abreast of what's happening is the important thing.
So you chose the location as centre of the city.
Yep.
Why is that?
Well, it wasn't that we chose it at all,
Okay.
actually. What happened was when they actually did a whole study, and all that information's available on our website. So we went through a whole consultation process about revitalising the city, access, and not just parking access, but access in and out to the city, access to public transport mobility, how it is aligned with iwi and hapu mana whenua issues. So there's a whole host of criteria which is all in the reports, and it was narrowed down to be the best opportunity to meet all those criteria. So it wasn't like, oh, we'll just have it here. It was done through a whole consultation process and
all
criteria.
those consultation process and all those processes, how long does it take?
Well, that was done right back in late 2016. And I think, so the theatre became a project when Founders was closed in early 2016 due to safety and engineering concerns about the
Safety.
about the railing system and the lighting system and things. And then the initial reports found that council would have to spend $30 million to upgrade that theatre. And we said, well, if you're going to spend $30 million to upgrade and make safe a 60-year-old building that actually doesn't have very good acoustics and horrible seats and still has not had hot water in the women's toilets and stuff, could we not take that $30 million and do something more if we could raise something better? So that's where the concept came from. And the council said, yeah, that makes more sense. It makes more sense to investigate the opportunity for Momentum to go and build something greater. So in fact, council now only commit $25 million. And in fact, the first part of that $25 million actually came from the Vibrant Hamilton Trust. So council's really only contributing $19 million. So when people say that council's paying $73 million, they're not. No. Council's only paying $25 million, and of that, 6 of that was from the Vibrant Hamilton Trust. Wow. So, from a ratepayer perspective, you're getting, as a ratepayer, you're only paying $19 million into a brand new facility rather than paying $30 million into an old facility. So when you talk to people about that, they go, well, that's a better deal. So that's where it came from, that's where the concept came from, and we've driven that the whole time.
So it means how many years did it take for the consultation, like 3 months, 6 months, or a year?
No, it's so I wasn't involved in the early days. I didn't come on board I didn't start here at Momentum until March 2018. Okay. So I've only been, but the study started about mid to late 2016, and the consultation and the development of a feasibility program, and could we do it, and the choice of selection, and how big was it, and what's the budget. When I came on board in March of 2018, they had a site sorted, they had a consultant organised and selected, and they had some concept designs that they were pricing up to make sure it worked. But it wasn't until about August of 2018, I was on board then, that we finally got down to what we felt was an appropriate scaled budget facility that met all of the requirements in terms of standards, acoustics, site, building costs and all those things.
Oh my God.
So it's a big project.
It taking a lot of time to build it and do all of these, but you guys took a lot of consultation and a lot of research and whatnot.
Yeah, well, it's and I think what people need to understand is it's a theatre. If it was just a office building, that's actually a reasonably easy build.
Yeah.
It's precast concrete, and you whack it up and you put your floors in and you get your tenants and you go. But this we have to design it for acoustics, we have to design the material for acoustic, we have to design it for the site. We've got lighting considerations and technology, we've got back of stage, we've got housing, we've got rehearsal rooms, we've got to work out the design and movement of actors and people and musicians and orchestra pits and staging. So the technical requirements of a theatre are a lot more than the building of a normal office.
Yes.
So that's what takes the time, and doing the detailed design to make that work took probably 6 months longer than we thought. And then of course we were supposed to start building in August of 2020, and then COVID hit, and that held us up for 3 or 4 months, and then we had Heritage New Zealand decline our authority because of the Urupā, so that's cool. We worked with local mana whenua, and we did that and got the tick off for that in October, and then we had a group appeal that in the Environment Court, so we had to work through that, and then we finally settled that just before Christmas. So here we are now, a year later, because of all those hold-ups and extra costs and delays, which was frustrating because we had mana whenua working with us and supporting us, and then we had another group who wanted to go through the court process, which is their right.
Yeah.
So that's cool, that's what we do, and we work with them to get a solution, and we've got a solution which was effectively moving the whole auditorium 8 metres up the site, and that was found to be suitable for everybody, and everyone was engaged, and great solution for the right outcome, I think.
Yes.
We should listen to mana whenua, and we should take on iwi's voice and have them at the table, and that's been a fundamental value from day one. So yes, it cost us a year, and it cost us some more dollars, and it cost us some time, but the outcome is the right one. So that's okay. We take that on the chin, and that's part of doing it. You can't have a community facility if part of your community feel isolated from it.
Yeah, true.
It doesn't make sense, right? So, and if the whole point is that the theatre is a way of telling stories of our city, of our region, and of the people in it, and the cultures that exist in it, particularly iwi as mana whenua, then if we're not engaging them appropriately, no matter who it is, then we're not doing our job. So, that debate is pretty loud at the moment within councils and those things, and I just think it's part of being a treaty partner, it's part of who we are as a country, and it's part of being open to cultures and engaging. So, yeah, look, it was pretty tough. I won't deny it wasn't easy, but we got there, and we were open to that. So, we're here. It's 3.5 years later, been involved, and we're now building. So, we'll start building this year, and the end result is a fantastic facility for people to be really proud of, hopefully.
Yes, definitely. It's going to help a lot of businesses, and it's going to help a lot of people to enjoy actually theatre properly.
Yeah, and I think
I haven't seen any theatre like that. Like only good theatre is I think in Auckland,
yeah,
where they do the Alibaba shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, there's some pretty good smaller regional theatres around, but this will be a good mid-sized theatre for the region that'll attract, because of the scale and size of it, that it works on the stage. That's what I talked about before, the technical requirements of the stage and the lighting and the ability to move the stage up and down and out, and the archways, and that enables us to do things at a really high level.
Having a proper sound area as well,
yep,
and then communicating with the stage and the sound is also a different thing.
And I think the theatre, people like to focus on the theatre because it's such a big project, and from a New Zealand perspective, particularly from a $75 million project, still a big project.
Yes.
So to be the project director for that, and to raise that money, and to get that up and running, and work with all the partners that we have to work with.
Yeah.
It's been exhausting at times, but it's something that we're really proud of. But I think Momentum and its core function of growing an endowment fund, after 6 years to be already at $32 million, and to have land and assets and significant people giving us trust funds to look after, and being able to donate those back to the community and start to do impact projects, that's really exciting. When people understand that they can contribute to an organisation where their investment monies. So if someone might come to us and say, look, we want to invest in affordable housing, we'll do it through you. They can give us, let's just use $1 million, and then we can guarantee them a 2% return. Now that's not really big commercial returns, but they're doing it because they want to contribute to the outcomes of affordable housing and wellness centres and development of young people and community.
Yes.
And they get a return on their dollar. And we've seen more and more people wanting to do that. And it's really interesting about where those funds are in our region. Our region has huge amounts of need and poverty, but what we're seeing is people who have got huge amounts of opportunity are saying, well, we've been looking for an organisation that we trust, that can get out there and do things, that's got credibility and got the right skill sets. We think Momentum's that. We like what you're about, we like the kaupapa. And what we do is we're prepared to go and just talk to people and find out what they're trying to achieve and see if we can make it. So we talk about connecting and convening.
Yeah.
And those projects range from the Kimihia Lakes development, which was an old mine site that we've had $1 million donor set up a fund to support.
Yeah.
And we're administering that and working with them, and we've brought people in and other investors to grow that fund and work with other donors. Yeah, and that's an amazing story for the Huntly community.
Yes.
A great environmental project, a very generous family in the Allen family who have brought that and then worked with us to develop that further.
Wow.
So there's projects like that, the Houchin Road facility, very amazing to be gifted that facility and to be able to modernise that in the name of the Houchin family and in the founders of that family, and continue to work with them and the Wise Group to provide a really community wellbeing centre, which is something that's really needed. And how do we replicate that around our region? That's what we're doing is a new way of delivering social and community infrastructure and services that doesn't rely on bureaucracies. And we're really excited about the Intercultural Fund, and we're really excited about the chance to keep growing that story. So the theatre's pretty cool. It's a big theatre. Everyone's excited about that. But this stuff that we're talking about
is also important.
That's where the change comes.
Yeah. And who are the board members here?
So our board is pretty cool.
How many people do we have?
So we have Neil Richardson is our chairman. So he is a businessman. Was the first CEO at Gallagher's. Pam Ryer, who's was the first chairperson of the Waikato Women's Fund. Joan Forrett, who is a partner at Harkness Henry. Holly Snape, who's the CEO at Community Waikato. Ken Stevens, who's a partner at KPMG, and Simon Rickman, who is CEO at Sudal, which used to be Holdfast. And we've had people like John Tanner and Ken Williamson and Leonard Gardner and Matt Cooper on our board, and we have an appointments panel, so it's the people who appoint the people to the board are separate, and Waikato Tainui have a role in that, and Well Energy Trust, and so there's a real independency and transparency about how you get on the board.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with people's money and we're stewards of their funds, it's not appropriate for our board just to pick people. There's a whole appointments process that is separate to and reviews the performance of the board and the organisation, and then appoints people to fill any skill gaps. So it's a really clever and transparent way of doing things.
And I saw on LinkedIn you posted the annual report as well. Can you hear a little bit more about it as well, please?
Yeah. So we've just so our annual report is obviously, again with COVID, things were all running a little bit late, but we've just delivered our annual report. So that gives us our financial results for the year. So up to the end of June 30 last year, we were at 26 million, and we're now at sort of 32. And it gives you highlights of everything we've done. So the establishment of the Intercultural Fund, the growth of the Women's Fund, the Kimihia Lakes work, and so it's just got stories of all the things that we've developed, an update on the theatre, and part of that was the showcase that we held a couple of weeks ago. So the annual report gives you all the financials and all the metrics, but it also gives you a few stories that tell you what we do. So a lot of things I've talked about here today are in that report, and that's online at Momentum's website.
Oh, interesting. And what else do you think are you planning to do further with Momentum Waikato?
Yeah, so we've just brought on board our first projects director. So whilst I look after the theatre, Steve Gow is really starting to work with the Regional Housing Initiative and the Community Finance and the Housing Bond to start putting together affordable housing projects. So where people might have land and they want to do a project, but they don't have the skills to pull together that project, that's where Steve comes in. So we're working to try and further to speed up some of those pipelines for housing and for the wellness project, as I said, at Houchins. So those are the ones we're really getting up and running in the next 12 months.
And how many staff do you have?
So we have, that's a good question, I have to count them up. Full-time, there's only 3 of us who are full-time, so myself and our office manager and our projects director. Everyone else is either 4 days, 3 days or 2 days. So, in terms of full-time equivalents, I think we only have like 4.8 people, but in terms of actual number of heads who do work, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 people, but about 4.8 full-time equivalents.
Do you have volunteers as well?
Yeah, we do. We've had interns from the university who come in, but who've helped us with our communication strategy and data analysis and working on those things. But all of the people who lead up the funds are volunteers. Our board are all volunteers. No one gets paid apart from the staff. The board don't get paid.
Yes.
The people who head up the funds for the Interculture Fund and the Women's Fund are all volunteers. We've had volunteers that, who, even the people who help us do the fundraising for the theatre are volunteers.
Yeah.
So, we have a great group of people who help us and connect us to other opportunities. Yeah.
And when I remember when Momentum Waikato was coming and people were like, it's like going to be in competition with Waikato Chamber.
Yep.
So I just wanted to say, do you still think it's the same thing now?
No, well, I think people realise that it's completely different.
Yeah.
We're not a business organisation. I mean, where we fit, the Chambers and Te Waka, they sit over here at the real economic end, working for business development and bringing new investment and those things, and they work in the market. They work to increase business skills and employee skills and management skills and business uptake and all those good things. And at the other end of that spectrum, you've got the government working in social and emergency spaces. But what housing has shown us is that there's a market gap, right? There's people who earn money but can't afford a house at the moment.
Yep.
And we slot in that bit. We fit neatly in between where the market doesn't touch and where the government doesn't touch. And there is absolute space in there for philanthropy to be engaged with governments and with commercial providers to fit that hole, and with donors. And that's what we do. That's exactly where we fit. So there's no, if anything, it fills a gap that was there before.
And just one question, do you have any kind of some of the community organizations or some of the people who don't know how to apply for funding and stuff, do we have any kind of workshops like that for them?
Well, we don't, but Community Waikato and Trust Waikato run, I think every 2 years, but Community Waikato particularly have that support. And Trust Waikato have got great people in their grants advisors, so and so do Well Energy Trust, actually. Dave Cowley and the team there are fantastic. So both of all those organisations that do grants have people that you can go to and they'll help you.
Is there any opportunity you can introduce me to them so that I can go and get an interview done with them as well?
Yeah.
So that we can actually help the audience to get some ideas how to apply for funding and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Because obviously funding options are available, so they don't know how to apply it.
Yeah, and each of the we all come together on about quarterly, so it's easy enough to just ask them if they're interested to do this. So that's no problem.
Yeah, that would be great. And what else do you want to share with us about Momentum Waikato?
Well, I think we've done it all, really. I mean, I think we've employed Tim McIndoe recently, who was the MP for Hamilton, and he's come on board a couple of days a week just to go out and meet with people. So if there's anyone who wants to know more about what we're doing or get clarity or ask some questions, Tim's role is to go out there and meet and explain what we do and how we do that and help establishing funds or help people do that. So, there's some resource there to help with that. He does a couple of days a week for us. And of course, the door's open and we will come to people anywhere in the region to talk about establishing support for picking up trusts, whether trust management or whether they've got the funds they want to invest better, impact investment opportunities around housing and wellness opportunities, linking on projects. And we've done things like we've acted as a underwrite for a project before it got up. We provided low interest loans for a community project who needed the last bit of money to get the project over the line, but they could pay back through the cash flow. Sometimes we've done a bit of we've worked with other funders who donate a grant, but we'll do an investment opportunity alongside that. I mean, one of our great successes has been the Punu River Care, and so Shannon Tahuia, you may have seen him, he's just been announced Community Hero of the Year for the New Zealander of the Year Kiwi Bank Awards. And we started with Shannon 4 years ago, and we were one of the first granters and investors into their nursery at the marae to work with local people and local young people and take them and give them jobs and skills and take that Te Ao Māori approach and apply that to a nursery and to a workplace and to increase the environmental outcomes of the river. And we continue to work with Shannon on new projects as he's doing, because we're able to develop not just the project but him as a person. And our role now is very minor, right? We're in the background and they're off doing their thing, and that's what we do. We're not here to get a big brand, we're here to get things going and make sure they work and then step out and go again. So, you know, happy to talk to people about any ideas they've got and see if they work.
Yeah, and you were telling me about managing the trust for different people as well.
Yep.
So do you, so you send them monthly, no, not the monthly, or the yearly report to them, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so it's on an annual basis. So the idea, if you're a trust that was set up to support, let's say, an education trust was set up a long time ago, there's a fund sitting there, but you know the trustees want that managed better, they don't want the hassle, they can put that in with us. We have a legal deed that says how we can invest it, what we can invest it for, how we report back to them and where the proceeds of those investments go. So it's all signed off, and then each year those people get a report from us that says this is how big your fund is growing, this is where we think the fund should go, do you approve that? And then it rolls out. And then obviously on their passing, or if they move on, then that sits within the deed and we get audited each year. So they don't have to pay audit fees, they don't have to pay accountancy fees, they don't have to do annual reports because we do all that for them.
Yeah. That saves a lot of time and money as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so they have to be philanthropic trusts, of course, they're not private family trusts, but
philanthropic trust. Okay. And lastly, 5 takes from Kelvyn Eglinton, please.
5 takes?
Yes. Or 5 rules or 5 regulations or some 5 ideas or maybe 5
5 thoughts?
Thoughts. Yeah. Anything.
Well,
Specifically from Kelvyn Eglinton, not Momentum Waikato.
No,
just a thing.
From me, okay.
Yes, please.
No. So my father always said to do work that interests you, because then it's not work. So that's the first one. So I've been really lucky that I've had commercial and international commercial exposure, but it's always been alongside communities, and I think it's that ability to influence communities which has been helpful. He's also told me that if you can get along with people who sweep the street as well as feel comfortable when you're talking to the Mayor and the Prime Minister, then you'll do well in life. So getting along with all sorts of different people. So that's been a real focus for me, to be able to sit in a pub or sit in a restaurant with the Mayor, or hang out with the guys on the marae, or hang out with local people. I think that's really key, get on with lots of people. Quality of the rescue, so things do go wrong, but rather than freaking out when things go wrong, focus on getting things right first and then coming back and giving people the opportunity to fix things up. So as a leader, I think our role is to support people and give them the opportunity to do stuff and take the chance to get things wrong. So that's 3. Those would be my big 3. I think the 4th one is about knowing what to fight for and what hill to die for. So there's always things that you see that are wrong, and sometimes they're minor and sometimes they're big, but there are times where you've really got to stand up and say, hang on, no, this is my value set and that's wrong, and I need to stand up and be clear about that. And I've been, the thing that really lately, whether it's on social media or when I've been talking to people, has been about Māori representation. I think that's a fundamental right under the Treaty of Waitangi. Having worked with my wife on treaty, and when you really understand it and you see it, and you see what happened, that's a big thing. So standing up for what is right, and not having to do it all the time, but doing it on the things that really count.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. And 5th, is actually just take time out to be with friends and family and just have some fun. Like we're getting into a society where everything's so serious, and yes, you know, I'm not suggesting that the issues are not serious, but you know, sometimes you've got to do it with a bit of a laugh, and you know, working 60 to 70 hours a week is not the answer. Taking time out to be with your friends and spend time with your family and have a laugh and have a beer and just, you know, take some time out is really important. And I find, you know, I think I went through that as a younger person working in a corporate environment, travelling around the world, been on planes, been away from home for 3 weeks at a time. It seemed exciting at the time.
Yes.
But yeah, now I'm a bit older, it's not that exciting. And actually, we didn't make the change that we thought we were doing. You know, we were active, but you can be really busy and not do much. Or you can be a lot more focused and create change. So that's where this job's really exciting and the opportunities here. And I think New Zealand's got an opportunity. So those would be my 5.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time as well. I wasn't expecting this kind of feedback from you, but I really loved it. All the things that you said, it's like it doesn't come like, you know, you're talking in some businessman or nothing like that. It all comes from heart. So I know how much you pay, like, you know, you do for this community.
Yeah,
and how much heart you have, and how much you are actually invested in these projects.
Yeah, but that's because the community respond, right?
Yeah.
The community, whether it's been our big donors or whether it's been the people who just want to see the theatre, or you know, the young lady who gives $5 to support the Waikato Women's Fund. Right? To me, that's fantastic. It's a culture of generosity that I think is unique in the Waikato, and the more we can get people to understand that we're just, you know, it's not about. The thing is that everything we do is not about Momentum Waikato. It's about the things we are just a mechanism for, and it's the, you know, and we can spend lots of time talking about the problem, but we know, you know, we're about action. It's building the theatre, it's building some houses, it's going out and working with Wise Group and getting the wellness centres up, it's developing the funds and getting the money out to the groups. It's about action, and you know, we think we're doing that, but it's not about momentum. It's about people saying, hey, we want to work with someone who can help us move the dial on that issue.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you for the audience as well to watching.
Thank you.
And once the video is up, I'll send it to you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do you want to watch the video before we upload?
No, trust you. Sweet.
Sweet. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go on. Yes.
Kira.